Dynasty won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to the Gen X Files, Barbara. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And because of my silly voice, you probably know that today's show is all about
Night of the Living Dead.
Kicking off Spooktober.
Spooktober.
Better than Rocktober.
Well, I mean,
barely though, but it is better technically.
It's the granddaddy of all zombie movies. Take yourself back to 1968, April 2nd, in a television special broadcast to the United States on NBC. White British singer Petula Clark touches African-American singer Harry Belafonte affectionately on the arm.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, the funny thing is that now we say that, and it seems like, whatever. But it caused a huge uproar.
I mean,
it was insane.
Was interracial marriage still illegal
in most states? Yeah.
I
think that was in the early 60s.
Yeah. God, man.
But yeah, it was a huge deal, and there's some great articles about it because Petula Clark was not the person they were expecting to be doing this. but it's really interesting, and obviously Harry Belafonte is an amazing person.
Oh yeah,
and it's all ridiculous. But
100%. But it's just so crazy that, you know, just a little over 50 years, we're still
having the same problems. Ugh. Yeah. July 15th, the soap opera One Life to Live premieres on ABC television in the United States. It ran until 2012.
Damn.
Yeah.
That was a good run.
40-some years. It was crazy.
Kept a lot of moms off the ironing boards.
Gotta watch your stories.
Gotta watch them stories.
September 24th, 60 Minutes debuts on CBS. And is still on the air.
It's a great show.
It's a good news journal. October 1st, Night of the Living Dead opens at the Fulton Theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, eventually grossing $12 million domestically and $18 million internationally, earning more than 250 times its budget and making it one of the most profitable films ever made.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Considering a lot of guys put in like $6,000.
Yeah, it was interesting how it was all put together. Obviously the idea starts with George A. Romero.
Now, just to say, you know, people might be like, "Well, that's 1968. It's not really a Gen X thing." The thing is, this movie was most of our introduction to zombies.
Yeah,
you know, and it started this lifelong love and obsession with zombies that our generation is perpetrating upon the masses on a daily basis, whether it's video games or movies or TV shows or whatever. Everything's zombies.
Zombies, yeah.
Thank you, George A. Romero.
Yes. He, although technically he never called them zombies in the movie.
No, they were ghouls. Which I prefer.
And he actually didn't consider them zombies at all. It was really interesting. George A. Romero was raised in the Bronx. He would frequently ride the subway into Manhattan to rent film reels to view at his house. He was one of only 2 people who repeatedly rented the opera-based film The Tales of Hoffman. The other was future director Martin Scorsese.
Of course it was. But how rad that they were renting reels to watch in their homes, eh?
It's crazy, yeah.
They had 16mm projectors?
Yeah, no home videos, so they were just renting film reels from...
Nerds. Super nerds.
And they both have had fantastic careers.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Nerds are super successful. That's why I'm a nerd, but...
Well,
waiting to be...
It'll come. Romero embarked upon his career in the film industry while attending Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. His initial work involved filming shorts for Pittsburgh public broadcaster WQED's children's series Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah, he kept coming up with these ideas about ghouls coming out of make-believe land and eating the king's face.
Yeah.
And Fred Rogers was like... I don't think so, George. I really enjoy your spirit, and I really enjoy your creativity, but I think that might be too graphic for the kids.
Yeah, probably just a little bit. Yeah. He directed and produced television commercials and industrial films for The Latent Image. It was a company in the 60s that he co-founded with friends John Russo and Russell Streiner.
Odd name. I'm just going to say it. Odd name.
John Russo?
No, Latent Image.
Oh, Latent Image? Yeah, it has something to do with photography. And
well, of course, but it just doesn't flow off of the Latent Image.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
Did you see the new movie by Latent Image?
Well, I don't know. Did you hit your T's hard enough?
Got to hit them T's, baby.
So the trio got bored making commercials and wanted to film a horror movie. They loved the idea of horror movies, the film industry's thirst for the bizarre, according to Romero, and just the general weirdness of Hollywood.
Yeah, we're talking 60s and 50s horror movies. A lot of this stuff was gimmicky. You know, they would come with like, they'd shock the seats. You know, there was a great guy that had these horror movies that had all these gimmicks that would affect the audience. And there were all these weird movies about brains that would come to life, or heads that would attack you, or giant women from the moon. You know, it wasn't there was no Freddy Kruegers. There was no. Halloweens, there were no zombies.
No, not at all. Not at all. They contacted Carl Hardman and Marilyn Eastman, president and vice president of a Pittsburgh-based industrial film firm called Hardman Associates.
Eastman, any relation to Eastman Kodak?
No.
You knew that right away. Nice. You knew I was going to ask that question, didn't you? You knew it.
They pitched their idea for a then untitled horror film to Hardman and Eastman. And Hardman and Eastman were like, yeah, this sounds great. Let's do this. They formed a new production company called Image 10. A little better than Latent Image.
A little bit, but why 10?
I don't know.
Image 1, baby.
It included Romero, Russo, Striner, Hardman, and Eastman. So the five of them, they each put in $600 and found five other guys to invest $600. So they had an initial budget of $6,000 to make this horror movie. Now, granted, it's 1968.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. They then realized
$600 is a lot of money, man. You can buy a car. You put
yeah.
down payment on a house, probably.
Yes, and they realized they didn't have enough money, so they found another 10 investors that each invested $600. So they had $12,000.
Starting to sound a little bit like a pyramid scheme.
a little bit.
You get $600. You get two friends, you get $600, and then you get $300 from that $600.
Right. Eventually, they raised $114,000 for the budget, which is
out of $600 donations. I mean, of investments.
No, I believe that they did have some larger investments.
Okay, I was gonna say, good lord,
it was like 600 people investing money. They eventually raised $114,000, which is about $848,000.
Still nothing
today. Yeah. For making a feature, that's pretty slim. It was originally co-written as a horror comedy by John Russo and George A. Romero under the title Monster Flick.
Ooh.
Yeah. An early screenplay draft concerned the exploits of adolescent aliens who visit Earth and befriend human teenagers.
Like, wow, man, this is one crazy planet I'm digging. Let's find some teenagers and go to the Cyclops. Ooh, I'm from space.
They knew their audience. They knew that teenagers were going to be the ones funneling money into this. A second version of the script featured a young man who runs away from home and discovers rotting human corpses that aliens use for food scattered across a meadow. He was really obsessed with using.
Where do you go with that?
Corpses. I don't.
know. It's like kid finds the corpses, then does he hunt down the aliens or what? I mean, like,
I assume the script that version of the script did not go anywhere.
Half-baked ideas.
Russo came up with the concept that they would be the recently dead only because they could not afford to bring long dead people out of their graves. Budget, which is going to be an ongoing thing here in the production of this movie.
I have said it before. I will say it again. Sometimes a low budget really brings out the creativity.
Yeah.
Because you got to.
100%.
You got to figure out ways to solve problems without money.
John Russo also came up with the idea that they would be flesh eaters, these weird, newly dead people. The final draft, written mainly by Russo during 3 days in 1967, focused on reanimated human corpses, which Romero referred to them as ghouls, that consume the flesh of the living.
Chomp, chomp, chomp.
So the script developed into a 3-part short story that Romero wrote. And part 1 became Night of the Living Dead. Part 2 and part 3 were eventually adapted into Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead.
Trilogy.
So he actually had the idea for all 3 movies way back in like 1967.
That's awesome.
So yeah, the fact that it was like, let's just make this first one and see what happens.
He's the George Lucas of ghoul movies.
Ghoul movies, yes. Romero drew inspiration from Richard Matheson's I Am Legend.
You always got to bring your boyfriend Richard Matheson into the conversation.
It's because he's always involved.
Anybody? Yeah. I mean, honestly, though, anybody who's a sci-fi, whatever, it's always Richard Matheson because he wrote so many iconic stories.
He was very prolific. Much like Stephen King, he just wrote a lot all the time. Plus, he worked in TV and he was the burgeoning kind of
Yes, he was great. He was a
master
wonderful,
of-
well-rounded
All right,
genius.
well, I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it till you believe
It
it.
sounds like I'm being snide, but I'm actually being honest.
I Am Legend is my favorite novel of all time.
Wow.
100% favorite novel. It's about a plague that ravages a futuristic Los Angeles. The infected become
Wait a minute.
vampire-like. I know. They became vampire-like creatures that prey on the uninfected.
If they were emotional vampires, then that would be the absolute truth that it came to fruition.
Well, give it time. Give it time. It's funny because they interviewed Romero quite a bit during this time, and he said that I Am Legend was a inspiration for him. And Richard Matheson was like, "Really?"
Really?
He was not pleased with the comparison between his book and Night of the Living Dead. But he did like George Romero. He met him a few times, and he did like him. So,
Well, he's still kind of a dick.
yeah, it was kind of like, man, dude, really? Like, just be happy that there's this new
Exactly.
thing. Yeah. Well, you know.
Look, man, there's been how many zombie movies? Like millions?
Yeah, hundreds.
And how many
thousands.
remakes of I Am Legend? 3?
4, technically.
Really?
But, well, there was one called I Am Omega.
Oh, is
was
that the
done
one
by
with
the,
Vincent Price?
Oh, no, that was The Last Man on Earth.
Yes.
That was the original adaptation. And then they did
Omega Man.
Omega Man, which was the 70s Charlton Heston version,
one.
which
Look
is
at
an
you.
amazing movie.
So great.
And then they did the Will Smith I Am Legend, which is the most accurate adaptation of I Am Legend, except that it's set in New York and not in L.A. But it captures the vampires more properly. But right around that time, The Asylum did a movie called I Am Omega, which was essentially a remake of the Omega Man. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. It was not an official adaptation. At one point, they were actually talking about trying to get Arnold Schwarzenegger to do it in the 80s.
No,
and,
they had that was
they had a script and everything. Yeah,
they did. That was what's his Silver.
Yes.
I saw that script. I read that
I
script.
read that script too.
Because my friends were working for Donner. And
Oh, yeah,
Donner
yeah.
and Silver did all their stuff together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that thing got really far.
It did. It was really close to being made, and I'm really glad it didn't because it was essentially a completely different story.
It's like if the 80s puked at that story.
Yeah.
Or the 90s puked at that story.
It was bad. It was bad. It was yeah. But I really liked the Will Smith I Am Legend. I thought it did a really good job.
Yeah, I don't know. I still love the Omega Man.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, The Last Man on Earth is a great movie too with Vincent Price. It's a great movie. So, because he did this short story, there wasn't really a script for Night of the Living Dead. Like, they kind of had an outline and some dialogue and stuff, but a lot of the dialogue was improvised.
I'm telling you, half-baked.
Very true. Like, for example, Barbara's story about her brother while Ben's breaking down the table was completely ad-libbed.
Barbara.
Yeah, where she's just freaking out and explaining, how her brother died and all that. And in fact, because of the budget, they shot it once, thought they lost audio on it, and then moved on anyway.
There you go, man. You only have a few bucks.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's not digital, man. You had to shoot the film.
Yeah.
You had to record the sound separately, and then you have to get the mag stock made, and you have to get the prints made, and you have to get all this shit made, and it costs a ton of money.
It was a process.
Yes. You don't just load your memory card into your MacBook Pro and start zippity zappity, baby. It's
If you don't get it, it could be days and days of reshoots.
And you
Like, it
won't
was-
know.
yeah.
You don't. I'm telling you, man, the anxiety that you feel waiting for your film to be developed to watch your dailies. Like in college, man, we just be like, man, I hope we got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I think there was a hair in the gate. I don't know. And then, it's like, it's so nerve wracking.
Yeah, it was. Nobody shoots on film anymore. I shouldn't say that. Features very
some
rarely.
directors do. I think Christopher Nolan shoots on film.
Yeah. Yes, because I know the last few he's been shooting on the IMAX, the big 70 millimeter, like whatever.
And Tarantino shoots on film.
Does he?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't know if he had moved to. No, I think you're right. I don't think he had moved to. Yeah, I actually when I worked on One Tree Hill, we were one of the last TV shows to shoot on Super 16.
Yeah.
It was awful. I had to deal with dailies every morning, and it was awful.
Why hold out, man? Just that was the thing. I remember just people losing their minds when everything went digital. Like every single processing house and negative cutter and all these guys were just like, man,
you're screwed.
Yeah. Well, it sucks, man. I mean, blacksmiths lost their jobs once cars came around. It's just a horrible, you got to think about the future sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made. The actors edited a lot of the dialogue they were given. According to Judith O'Dea, who played Barbara, they essentially would read the dialogue and then tell the dialogue the way they thought it should be, like get the feel of it.
Right.
Because I don't know if the dialogue was just bad.
But it gave it more of that cinema verite feel, too, because it was a lot more real. Like everything was in your face and kind of sloppy, but that really added to the flavor and the texture and the feel of the movie.
Yeah. And even to the point of shooting it on black and white, they couldn't shoot in color because they didn't have the money for it. And the black and white added this extra, like, oh my God, this seems so real.
Gore looks so much grosser in black and white for some reason. You get that chocolate Bosco sauce, and it's just so much more visceral for some reason. It's just so gross.
It is pretty gross. So the cast. Let's talk about the cast before we get into production.
Should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump back into casting.
Casting.
All right. Dwayne Jones was cast as Ben, the lead. He was an unknown stage actor. He was a former university professor in real life. He was actually was considered to be a proper gentleman, which I don't know.
Carried a cane and had a monocle. That's what a proper gentleman did.
His casting was potentially controversial, much like Petula Clark touching Harry Belafonte, because he was black.
Right.
It was rare for a black man to be cast as the hero of an American film primarily composed of white actors. And Romero said that Jones he did the best audition.
That's what I love. It wasn't even any sort of like statement, or he wasn't trying to, it was just like, I did the best. He got the part.
I want the best person for the job. Yeah. He's it. Ben was originally supposed to be a low-class truck driver, but Dwayne Jones refused to play the part that way.
Yeah.
Because he was a college-educated man. He was a smart
guy. Man,
guy.
I'm the star of this movie. We're going to make the character a little more interesting than just well, no offense to truck drivers, man. It's a hard-ass job.
They actually he wrote the part as, in the intention of it being
the low class is the bad part. Truck driver, fine. Low class.
But the interesting thing is that he wrote it originally for a white guy. And when they cast Dwayne Jones, they didn't change any of the dialogue. They just said, okay, here it is. Let's do it. So the low class part is disappointing, but Dwayne Jones came in, and that's the part of.
But that was the part for anybody.
Yeah,
it wasn't like written for an African American actor.
Exactly.
Calm down, people.
Yeah, and the fact is that filmmaking is a collaboration.
By people, I mean me. I was the one that was outraged, and then I calmed down.
He went on to appear in other films after Night of the Living Dead and continued working as a theater actor and a director until his death in 1988.
Nice. I mean, not that he died in 88, but nice that
he had a big career. He was deathly afraid after that movie that he was always going to be recognized as Ben, which he was, but he had a good career. He did well. Judith O'Dea was cast as Barbara. She was a 23-year-old commercial and stage actress, Judith O'Dea. Previously worked for Hardman and Eastman in Pittsburgh, so she had the in with them. Yeah. She was in Hollywood seeking entry in the movie business when she auditioned. She remarked in an interview that starring in the film was a positive experience for her, although she admitted horror movies terrified her.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not scary on set. No, everybody's still eating donuts and drinking coffee.
Why is everybody covered in chocolate syrup?
Yeah.
In addition to acting, she performed her own stunts, which she jokingly claimed amounted to, quote, lots of running.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She was great in the movie.
There were stairs.
That's true. She did go up and down the stairs a couple times. Carl Hardman was Harry Cooper.
Carl Hardman as Cooper.
He was one of the producers. And I didn't realize until we started this research that he was one of the producers.
Yeah, well, what a great name, too. And that's how it is, man. You're making something real low. Yeah. It's kind of catch as catch can. Well, why don't you get in there and be in the... We need an extra guy. You be in the movie.
That was one of the other things that Carl Hardman was... he took a lot of pictures during the no, sorry, it was Russell Streiner. Took a lot of pictures and took over 1,200 pictures. And he said very specifically that the entire cast was involved in the process of developing the film.
Oh, wow.
They just formed a fire truck line and then, or, fire brigade line, and just did, like, everybody was involved. Everybody was making sure that everything got done.
Well, it got super high, too, man. Smelling them chemicals. That's the best part about developing your own film. Some sniffs.
Carl Hardman was also provided the voice of the newscaster heard on the radio in Johnny's car. At the beginning
Johnny's
of the movie.
car.
Yeah, Johnny. We'll get to Johnny. Oh no, Johnny was Russell Streiner. Sorry, who am I thinking of?
I don't know.
Oh, it was Keith Wayne as Tom. Sorry. Okay, so Marilyn Eastman played Helen Cooper, the other producer of the Hardman and Eastman producing team.
Nice.
She also played a female ghoul eating an insect.
She really eat an insect?
She did.
Yeah, I guess got to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Producer's going to eat that bug.
I mean,
got to set the example.
It paid off.
Yeah, that's gross.
The movie made a lot of money. Keith Wayne is Tom. Now, this is his full name was Keith Wayne Hartman. It was his only film appearance. Following the completion of the film, he worked as a singer for a number of years with the Bill Roberts Show, Keith Wayne and the United Brass Works and others. And in the early...
was that the United Brass Works and Others is the name of the band?
No. Other bands.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
That would be great.
And Others?
And Others. In the early 80s, he became a chiropractor.
Nice.
And for a long time, he wrote a column called The Chiropractic Corner in Hard Gainer magazine. Under
Hard Gainer
Dr.
magazine?
R. Keith Hartman. Yeah, it's like a bodybuilding magazine.
Hard Gainer.
It still exists today, actually. His last paper or column was a work called How to Find Chiropractic Help, Bursitis and Tendinitis, Sternum Noises, Knee and Neck Care, plus the notice of the death of Dr. Hartman, and then he killed himself.
Jesus. It's because the name of that article was 18 years long.
Yeah. It's really sad and disappointing. I mean, he had a great career and he had a good, but it's just weird that he...
Well, he was probably suffering from depression or something.
Yeah, it's something bad. Yeah.
Read the article, be like, damn it, I've ruined my career.
It's just one of those things of like, man, he literally sent that article to his people and then killed himself. And
suicide suicide is so unsatisfying. It's just you never. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying about suicide. Suicide sucks, man. It just leaves a lot of people with questions, and
it is the most personal decision you can make.
Sure.
And literally no one else will ever understand why.
No.
And Judith Ridley played Judy. Ridley later played the lead in Romero's second feature.
Was the name Judy before she was cast?
I doubt it. She was also the lead in Romero's second feature, There's Always Vanilla, which came out in 1971.
There is always vanilla.
There is always vanilla. Kyra Schoen is Karen Cooper, the little girl. She was actually Carl Hardman's daughter, and she played the mangled corpse in the house in the upstairs that Ben drags away.
Nice.
Thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
George Kosana is Sheriff McClelland. Kosana was also Kasana also served as the film's production manager. Yet again.
You see, when you put these people in the movie, you don't got to pay them.
Yeah,
so you got a bunch of free actors in the movie that you don't got to give the gibbity gab.
That's how you keep the budget down.
You got to keep your bottom line down, Adam.
Yeah.
When you're making an indie feature.
You gotta stay
I
within
don't know why
budge.
the indie feature guy speaks like that kind of cartoon, but
Russell Streiner is Johnny. That was the brother who was also the producer, took a lot of pictures. Streiner later served as a producer of the 1990 remake of the film, in which he also had a cameo appearance as Sheriff McClelland.
Easter eggs,
yeah. And my perhaps favorite, Bill Chili Billy Cardile.
Bill Chili Billy. Welcome to WIIC TV. I'm Bill Chili Billy Cardile, and I'm here at the Fair Live with Monkey Madness.
He was well known in Pittsburgh as a TV presenter who hosted a horror film anthology series called Chiller Theater.
Those were the best.
Yeah.
Every single market had some creepy dude or creepy lady dressed up as like a vampire or a Frankenstein or a something, presenting
Chili Billy.
Or is Chili Billy presenting Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
No, but it was always some weirdo presenting creepy moves. But it was great. Loved them creature features.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was definitely, yes. There was everywhere had that late night. Because the movies you could get were
afternoons
cheap.
too, man.
Yeah. So let's move on to the production. The small budget, as said, dictated a whole lot of the production process.
Oh, sure.
According to Hardman, he said, and I quote, "We knew that we could not raise enough money to shoot a film on par of the classic horror films which we'd all grown up. The best that we could do was to place our cast in a remote spot and then bring the horror to be visited on them in that spot."
Smart.
So the whole idea was they just found a house and then made the house the place, and that was it.
Yeah, they probably slept in that house and ate in that
I
house.
imagine, yes.
Everybody, I mean, if you ever worked on a low-budget movie, you know how it goes, man. It's just
Oh, yeah.
a lot of sandwiches, a lot of cheap turkey sandwiches with mustard.
A lot of white bread. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of peanuts, a lot of water, and not a whole lot of else.
Not a lot of sleep because you got to shoot.
Nope. I mean, I remember you making spaghetti for everybody because you don't have enough money.
Oh, yeah.
So you get a couple of pounds of spaghetti and sauce for like $5, and you just
That's true. And there
give
you go.
everybody and then they fall asleep because of all the carbs, but you got away with a cheap meal.
They've eaten, and that's all that matters. The house they shot in was 30 miles north of Pittsburgh. It does not exist anymore, unfortunately. It has become a turf farm, which is...
What?
Turf farm. So...
Is that like where Tufts go to be like...
No, turf.
Yeah, I know. Like, this is my turf. This is where the Tufts get their turf. where they rumble over the turf.
No, you
the
know...
Tufts.
You know how you can, like, buy grass that rolls out? It's got to be grown somewhere.
Oh.
Apparently now it's grown in the house where Night of the Living Dead was shot.
Well, interesting.
The props and the special effects were fairly simple. The blood, for example, was Bosco chocolate syrup dribbled over cast members' bodies. The consumed flesh consisted of roasted ham and entrails donated by one of the actors who also owned a chain of butcher shops.
I see. That's why that actor was cast, because the producer said, we're going to need guts. This guy's not that great, but it reminds me of Zombie Joe.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
producer that we used to work with at this theater. And he, it wouldn't matter. The guy could have never acted in his life, but if he could bring 10 people to the theater, he could be the star of the show.
I can just imagine Hardman and Eastman sitting down together. So I got this guy. He's not very good, but he owns a butcher shop.
Hey, he's in. Whatever part he wants, he's in. And by the way, it's so funny that brown, you have to, if you use blood or red or ketchup with black and white film, it doesn't look like blood. It
it's
just
too
looks
bright.
clear
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
So you have to use chocolate, and the chocolate is just so visceral. Ugh.
Yeah, that's whenever I make my own fake blood, you got to add in blue because people don't realize the blood is so much darker than you think. Costumes
Make
consisted...
your own blood.
I do. I
for
make
your
my own.
personal use.
I have shared that, and I have shared that recipe. I originally got it from my
on
friend,
your TikTok.
my old co-producer Amanda Marquardt, and I have shared that recipe with so many people. Actually, just yesterday, a guy in Illinois hit me up and asked me for the recipe.
Hey, look, you guys need a recipe for blood? You get a hold of Adam.
Super easy,
He's your man.
sticky as hell.
He's your
but it
blood guy.
works.
I got a blood guy.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, it's Adam.
The costumes consisted of secondhand clothing from cast members and Goodwill. It's really interesting because reading through this and how they did this, literally nothing's changed.
It also just seems like every crappy black box theater production I've ever done. People bringing their own clothes or going to Goodwill, making your own blood,
You always have that question. So
Yes.
can I destroy this? Is that okay?
Yes, exactly. It's got that whole those old Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland movies where they come on, let's put
Let's
on a
do a
show,
show.
Or the Little Rascals would always put on a show to make money.
You too can put on a show. The zombie makeup varied during the film. Initially, the makeup was limited to white skin with blackened eyes.
Everybody looked like they pulled an all-nighter.
Yeah.
And they just did an exam for college.
By the end of the movie, they didn't have to use makeup.
They were so exhausted. Yeah, they look like hell.
As the filming progressed, mortician's wax was used to simulate wounds and decaying flesh. The funny thing is that because they shot it out of order, you can see the kind of pasty face.
Oh yeah,
well,
the ending, man, when the zombies crash into the house, it really does look like a bunch of tired people looking for coffee. Everybody's like, where's the coffee?
The slow stumble.
Oh, where's the coffee? I need to get to my shift at the mill. I need the coffee.
My absolute favorite zombie in the entire movie during the end, when they break in, some lady has grabbed like the leg of a table and she's literally just walking around, pushing it up and down.
There was not a lot of direction. If you really pay attention to the ghouls, let's be ghouls.
The ghouls, sorry.
Let's be
The ghouls,
accurate,
yeah.
animal.
Sorry.
Let's be accurate. The ghouls just did not get a lot of direction. He's just like, wander around, you brain dead ghouls.
Yeah, it was. It was just funny because I mean, even to the point of the daughter, like eventually she uses a hammer to kill her mother, rather than eat her, and it's like it was the early days of the ghouls and the zombies. And
this was the baby. This was the first. I mean, not the. There were ghoul movies and zombie movies. There was
zombie movies before. Yes. There was the White Zombie was a movie that was done, but it was about.
It was about voodoo.
Voodoo, thank you. It was about voodoo, and even
because zombie comes from voodoo of people raising the dead to be a servant to the voodoo queen, priestess, or priest.
It was, and Romero knew this. I mean, he went into it, and that's part of the reason he called them ghouls, because he thought that they differed enough from the way that zombies had been portrayed that he called them something else.
Well, there wasn't a voodoo priest or priestess raising them from the dead now, was it? Wasn't it like some alien comet?
It was a comet. We passed through the tail of a comet, and which is not. It's one of the things I love about this movie. It's kind of explained, but not really.
Well, most of Walking Dead, they never really explain why everybody's.
I haven't watched the last 6 seasons, so I have no idea if they've explained.
Maybe they have. I've missed a few seasons. I need to catch up.
I feel bad. A really good friend of mine is a producer on that show. I feel bad. I just
admitted that you hate his show or her show. I don't know
his show, but it wasn't. Eventually, I'll watch all of it. So, filming took place between July of 1967 and January of 1968. So, man, they shot that for 6 months. That was a long time.
And this was Pittsburgh, north of Pittsburgh. Right?
Yeah, in that house. Yeah.
So that July was probably pretty
humid. Cold. Yeah, I mean, yes. During the summer, it'd be warm, and then it'd get cold. I mean, Pittsburgh's pretty far north. Yeah. I mean, it would be. I imagine it would be chilly. I've never actually been to Pittsburgh, so I don't know.
Pennsylvania, it snows.
That's true. It was filmed under the working title Night of Anubis, and then later Night of the Flesh Eaters.
Anubis. So it would have been probably something to have to do with ancient Egypt.
Yeah. I don't know why. Maybe the comet was called Anubis.
Death or something?
Yeah. He's the Egyptian god of death. The only reason I bring up the titles is because eventually the mini title changes they went through before the film was released came back and kind of bit them in the ass.
Yeah. So when did this baby come out?
This came out in October of 1968. They spent almost 6 months doing post-production on it.
When you're making an independent movie, the post-production is what takes so long because it's expensive. Yeah. It's time-consuming, especially when you're dealing with film.
Yeah.
And luckily there's not a lot of color correction because it's black and white, but you still have to.
Yeah, there's still stuff
process
to be done.
It the way it needs to be processed. You got to get the mag stock made. You got to sync it up. You got to choppity-chop, put your white glove on, get on the Steenbeck.
And little inside baseball. Post-production is always going to cost twice as much as you think it does. Mm-hmm. It does not matter. I believe they actually had to raise more money because of the post-production process.
Yeah.
It gets expensive, especially back in the day. I mean, it would just get
You have
expensive.
to make prints, man. You have to make a print of the film. That costs a ton of money. Even back then, making one print would cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah. It was expensive. It was just expensive. Upon completion of post-production, Image 10, the production company, found it difficult to secure a distributor willing to show the film with all of the gruesome scenes intact.
Cowards.
Almost all of them, including Columbia and American International Pictures, declined because they requested that Romero soften the movie, and all the producers were like, no. We're not. This is our movie.
And it was especially the ending that they wanted to change.
Yes.
Now, spoiler alert, this is a 54-year-old movie.
Yeah.
So you've had plenty of time to watch it.
Yes.
But in the ending, it's the next day, and our hero has survived.
In fact, is he the only one that survives?
Yes, I believe
up to that
so.
point, yeah.
And he's in the house, and there's a bunch of guys walking around shooting zombies, and they see him and shoot him right in the head.
And done.
And he's dead. And it's so bleak, but it's such a perfect ending for this movie. It could not have ended any other way. It would have been ruined.
Yeah. And that comes to Romero wanting to make a statement. I mean, all of his movies talk about social aspects and commenting on things like Dawn of the Dead, and
well, it's just basically I mean, it's an excuse for the breakdown of society and to see how people react when society breaks down.
Right.
That microcosm of that farmhouse is America.
Yeah.
You got your religiosos, you got your non-religiosos, you got your families, you got your singles, you got your blacks, you got your whites, you got your women's, you got your men's. So you got a lot of people.
A lot of groups there.
Yes, but you have a good representation of, middle America.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is really just how much everything breaks down. I mean, that's the really... It's interesting because I was drawn more towards this movie when the pandemic started. Because it was like, man, I don't want this to happen this way.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're probably never going to have to deal with zombies. Who knows? Not. Maybe.
Ghouls, maybe. Ghouls.
Maybe some ghouls. But we are going to deal with society breaking down.
Yeah.
In different aspects, in different... Hopefully not a complete and total breakdown of society.
Hopefully we can
in our lifetime, because it will happen. We're going to run out of water. We're going to run out of space to grow food. We're going to have too many people. Yeah. We're going to have perpetual pandemics. There's the global warming is going to keep causing problems and diminish our food and water supply and make things hotter and more of the planet uninhabitable. So we're going to have this. So start watching these damn movies to prepare yourself on how to act, because we need to be civilized.
In regards to the ending, Romero admitted that, quote, none of us wanted to change it. We couldn't imagine a happy ending. Everyone wanted a Hollywood ending, but we stuck to our guns.
Good.
Because they had to. I mean...
Yeah.
They did this whole movie without any big Hollywood names, without any... They did this on their own. And they
made the movie they wanted to make.
Yes, exactly.
And why compromise at the very end, especially when nobody really wants it anyway?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Manhattan-based Walter Reed organization agreed to show the film uncensored, but they changed the title from Night of the Flesh Eaters to Night of the Living Dead.
Well, Night of the Flesh Eaters, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
There's going to be some flesh eating.
The interesting thing about changing the title and the fact that Romero did not come up with Night of the Living Dead, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah. Did he come up with Night of the Flesh Eaters?
Yes, that was him and Russo together. While they changed the title, they accidentally deleted the copyright notice because it was on the title, and they never added it back. And surprise, surprise, the movie is now in the public domain.
Yeah, you could do whatever the hell you want with that movie, people.
Which almost everyone has.
Yeah, I've seen a stage production. You worked on a stage production.
I did right before the pandemic. We did a stage production of it.
Yeah, you could remake it. You could show it anywhere you want to show it. You could put it on your website. You can do whatever the hell you want.
To the point of there are. According, as of 2019, Amazon.com lists this many number of Night of the Living Dead releases: 13 on VHS, 130 on DVD, 12 on Blu-ray, 1 on Blu-ray 3D, and 56 on Amazon Video.
Wow. No 4K Blu-ray?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's what we're going to do. Hey, we're doing it. Nobody else do 4K Blu-ray because Gen X Files is going to release it.
We'd have to find an original print of the movie.
I've got 3.
Oh,
I do.
Go down and rent the film reel.
Yes.
The film is also the original film is available to view or download for free on various websites, such as the Internet Archive. And as of August 2021, it is the Internet Archive's second most downloaded film with over 3.3 million downloads. Nationally, it was shown as a Saturday afternoon matinee, which was typical for horror movies at the time, and attracted an audience consisting of preteens and adolescents.
This is pre-MPAA. It was not.
It literally came out the month before the MPAA started mandating that everything be. Yeah.
Right under the radar to traumatize a whole generation of babies.
You literally could be 7 years old and buy a ticket to see this movie, which they did.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times chided theater owners and parents who allowed children access to the film with such potent content for a horror film that they were entirely unprepared for. He said, and I quote,
"I don't think the younger kids really knew what hit them. They were used to going to movies, sure, and they'd seen some horror movies before, sure, but this was something else."
According to Ebert, the film affected the audience immediately.
The kids in the audience were stunned. There was almost complete silence. The movie had stopped being delightfully scary about halfway through and become unexpectedly terrifying. There was a little girl across the aisle from me, maybe 9 years old, who was sitting very still in her seat and crying. It's hard to remember what sort of effect this movie might have had on you when you were 6 or 7, but try to remember, at that age, kids take the events on the screen seriously, and they identify fiercely with the hero. When the hero is killed, that's not an unhappy ending, but a tragic one. Nobody got out alive, it's just over, that's all.
Your Roger,
And I quote.
Your Roger Ebert is spot on.
It is, really.
The response from Variety after the initial release reflects the outrage generated by Romero's film.
Until the Supreme Court establishes clear-cut guidelines for the pornography of violence, Night of the Living Dead will serve nicely as the outer limit definition by example. In a mere 90 minutes, this horror film, pun intended, casts serious aspirations on the integrity and social responsibility of its Pittsburgh-based makers, distributor Walter Reed, the film industry as a whole, and exhibitors who book the picture, as well as raising doubts about the future of the regional cinema movement and about the moral health of filmgoers who cheerfully opt for this unrelieved orgy of sadism.
I really like pornography of violence.
Yes. And cheerfully opt for this unrelieved orgy of sadism.
It's really funny now because you show this to a 10-year-old and they're not going to think it's scary.
But let me tell you, bud. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I remember you remember when you first
Oh,
saw
yeah.
this?
Oh, yeah.
I first saw this. This is one of my favorite memories with my sister Tracy. She was older than me, and so I was just a little pain in her butt, tattletale little jerk, and she had her own cool life, and she was super cool, and I always wanted her to, I always wanted to hang out with my big sis because she was so cool. And one Halloween, I was like, hey, sis, there's this movie marathon on, and I thought maybe you and I could, make some popcorn, have some sodas and watch the movie marathon. And to my surprise, she was like, all right, kid, I'll watch your damn marathon with you. So we hung out and stayed up all night watching this crazy, a bunch of scary movies. And then Night of the Living Dead comes on, man. And the eating of the people freaked me out. It was so gross.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it, like you said, it's super quaint now.
Yeah.
But I had never seen anything like it. I had never seen people eating people. And, and again, that ending, too, was just so jarring. And, it's like...
Because it literally, he gets shot, goes down, and then it's done.
Exactly. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. And both my sister and I were freaked by it. And I think it was the first time she might have seen it, too. So I just always remember that's one of my favorite Halloweens. Because I got to spend it with my cool sister, and I'll never forget that feeling, that uncomfortable kind of queasy, uneasy feeling I got watching that movie.
Yeah. It was definitely frightening. I mean, if you watch it too young, but I mean, I think that's true for all horror movies.
I mean, you could watch The Lion King too young and could damage you.
Yeah. I mean, the witch from The Wizard of Oz freaked me out when I was little.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
She's freaky.
She is. It was her on the bike turning into the witch. That just nightmares for days. I don't know why.
Flying monkeys freak me out.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, monkeys shouldn't fly. I think it's pretty... So Night of the Living Dead is the first of 6 of the Dead films directed by George Romero himself.
Adam did air quotes.
Yeah, they call them of the Dead films, which I don't. They're just Romero zombie movies.
Sure.
Zombie movies.
Zombo movies. I wish they would have called them Zombos.
Oh, that would have been great.
Zombos are coming.
The Zombos are coming. I can't take
it. Zombo apocalypse.
Can't take it seriously. Zombos.
I'm calling them Zombos from now on.
The other 5 of the Dead films were Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead.
And then Dead of the Dead.
Yeah, before George Romero passed.
I know. It wasn't that long ago either.
No, it wasn't that long ago. And, Dawn of the Dead is a classic. Day of the Dead's okay.
Day of the Dead's in the mall, right?
No, Dawn of the Dead's the mall one.
Dawn of the Dead's in the mall, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that one's fun. And the remake of that, written by, I believe, James Gunn.
Yes, directed by Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder does a good job when he doesn't write his stuff.
He peaked early.
Yeah, because that is his best movie, 100%. And
Yeah.
that is one of my favorite zombie movies. And it totally captures the feel of the Romero zombie movies.
Yes, 100%. The original Dawn of the Dead's fantastic. Day of the Dead's okay. It's, they're down underground a lot.
Less interesting.
Yeah. And then the Land of the Dead, Die of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead, it just got to the point where he was using a lot of CG.
Yeah.
It was like,
And it just,
come on,
and
man.
the stories were, the characters and the stories weren't as crisp, and there was a lot of military crap, and it just,
Romero is a real director, like a physical director. Like once he started doing like the computer generated stuff, it just didn't work.
He was a practical effects director, and he thrived
Thank you,
with
that's what I'm trying to
having
say.
the actual stuff on set.
Yeah.
And
works
there's
much better.
there's some guys that just, it's hard doing green screen directing and green screen acting, and acting to tennis balls and stuff, because there's no real representation of what's happening on screen. It's a difficult thing to do, and especially the guys that can direct those things, hats off, man, because there's a lot of trust involved, because you're basically like, well, I want this and this and this to happen, and then 6 months later,
Right.
the animators,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you get to see it, and you're like, well, I don't like that, and go back to, and it's another 6 months, and yep.
It's almost like the film industry has gone full circle back to
Right.
doing film, where you're like, I don't know, man.
And also, Romero is an independent filmmaker
Yeah.
at heart, and
Yes.
he was a guy, rough and tumble collaborator. Everybody sleeping in the, it's more that type of filmmaking, as hard as it is, and there's not him making a lot of money and being successful off of this is extremely rare.
Right.
A lot of there's, for every Night of the Living Dead, there's hundreds of movies that nobody's ever seen, and you still go through all of the hard work and blood and sweat and tears to make that thing happen, just because you love it. Because you're not, nobody's getting rich off of this stuff, or very few people are.
Very few, yeah.
So, that's, I think some guys, when they get out of that independent mindset, or that independent mold,
Yeah.
they're not as good. You give,
Yeah.
like I said, I think lack of funds spawns creativity and creative people, and I think having all the tools in the toolbox and everything you want kind of sours the creativity a little bit on those kind of guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think it would be really difficult. I think it would be overwhelming to just have all that stuff and just be like, oh yeah, I guess, okay, there's this train thing and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I think his time was his time, and he held on just a little bit too long.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, as evidence from the fact of his other movies he did in the 70s, like Martin is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh yeah, and that one they just released.
At the
carnival.
at the amusement park.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just watched that, and that's.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It's
that's
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a great movie, but he's such a really fun, independent
Yeah.
horror movie filmmaker, and the other movies that we're going to talk about this month are all 100% influenced by him.
Yes.
And by his style.
Yes.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, another indie horror movie. These are all
Tobe
indie
Hooper,
films. Yeah.
100%. If it wasn't for Romero, he wouldn't be making movies.
Yeah, and he would admit that himself.
Yeah,
But it's just what we got was some really great stuff. And Romero created a genre that, well, it's out of control.
He wasn't even intending to create.
No, he was creating the ghoul genre, and everybody was like, "Yeah, we're gonna call them zombies. We're gonna call them zombos."
So, because of the copyright problem, in the same year that Day of the Dead premiered, which I believe was '83, they released Night of the Living Dead co-writer John Russo released a film titled The Return of the Living Dead that offers an alternate continuity to the original film than Dawn of the Dead.
Now, is that the one where they go into the cemetery with the punk rock chick, and they have that really great character actor that plays one of the Clu Gulager. Yeah,
Oh, yes,
is
yes,
this the one with
yes,
Clu
I
Gulager?
believe it is, yes.
And the kid, oh man, I love that movie. That
Yeah.
is such a great zombie movie.
I never realized that it was John Russo that
Neither
did those
did I.
movies. And eventually we'll do a Return of the Living Dead. We'll get Jana back on because
Oh,
it's her
yeah.
favorite movie.
Oh, it's so good.
It's just so gross.
It's so funny too.
wonderfully
I mean,
gross.
Clu Gulager
Yeah.
and those poor two guys that get, turned into zombies. It's just so well done.
It's good. His film actually spawned 4 sequels. I know Return of the Living Dead Part 2 was even bigger than the first one.
It was very good.
But the Return of the Living Dead sparked a legal battle with Romero, which is disappointing. I mean, it's sad. He believed Russo marketed the film in a direct competition with Day of the Dead as a sequel to the original film. He accused Russo of appropriating part of the title of the prior work, plagiarizing Dawn of the Dead's advertising slogan, "When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth," and copying stills from the original 1968 film.
Yeah, he was doing a cash grab.
Yeah, I mean, technically, he just couldn't. With the marketing stuff, I think that they could make a case, but I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot by eliminating
it was
copyright.
Look, he took whatever he wanted because there ain't no copyright, baby. You can do whatever you want.
Romero was ultimately
granted. But he's his ex-partner, and that's kind of crappy to do.
Yeah, it's
not like you and I did it. It was the guy that helped make the first one.
That's what's the betrayal. Really disappointing, Romero was ultimately granted a restraining order that forced Russo to cease his advertising campaign. However, he was allowed to retain the title and has made a bunch of money off the movies.
Oh, yeah.
They did do an official remake in 1990 that Romero was involved in, but it was directed by Tom Savini.
Right.
The special effects guru, Tom Savini.
Yeah. Tom Savini, any practical gross effect in the 80s and early 90s was probably created by Tom Savini in his Creature workshop.
Yes, he was incredible. Acting-wise, if you don't know who he is, he was in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes, he was the guy that had the
gun crotch.
The gun belt, yeah.
Yeah. Tom Savini's great. He helped shepherd, he's one of the producers on Walking Dead as well. Mm-hmm. All of the Walking Dead stuff is done by Tom Savini.
Yeah, Savini is the grandfather of zombie makeup. I mean, he created most of this stuff.
Yeah, he really started all of it. So they were able to have...
Latex King.
Yeah, Latex King. That is true. So because of that, they kind of try to. That's Romero kind of going, this is the official movie now because we made it and it's copywritten.
Sure.
And he made it better, bigger budget, and whether or not it's a better movie, I don't know. I mean, it's not. I don't say a better movie.
No,
but it's
the thing's going to top the original because it was so unexpected.
Yeah.
It's quaint now, but still, you're not gonna make a better movie than that.
No. Along with all the various releases and stuff, the only one I own is the one that has a commentary by Romero on it because he only did it for one DVD release, and it has a bunch of other stuff. But it came down to, well, we can't make money off the movie. We're going to make money off of the ancillary things.
Yeah.
And the Millennium release, it was like the 50-year anniversary release of it, is fantastic.
Nice.
It's really good.
I saw it on Pluto TV. I watched. I caught a couple nights ago. I was dabbling on Pluto. If you don't have Pluto, it's a really fun kind of way to pretend like you have cable again.
It's
the cord.
It's like being back in the Gen X days.
Yes,
like flipping the channels.
Because it's all like Three's Company and Fantasy Island and Love Boat. But they were playing Night of the Living Dead, and I caught the last third of it. And it's funny because they must have shot the ending before they shot the beginning because there's not a lot of zombie makeup.
No. They probably
climax.
Brought in a whole bunch of people at the beginning so they could make sure they had that, and then they shot all the shorter, smaller
Get the tough stuff first.
I've watched it right before the play. I watched it like 4 or 5 times just to get into character. I just played a zombie, so it wasn't like or a ghoul. But it was great. That was actually written. The adaptation for the stage was written by Gus, our guest on Back to the Future.
It had a great set. Set, I was very impressed by the set of that show.
It was fun. It was really fun to work on. Drina, his wife, directed it. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I had a good time. I don't do a lot of theater anymore, but it was really fun, and it was a great adaptation of the script.
Yeah,
script, which literally Gus and he said this himself. He just watched the movie and wrote things down.
There you go.
There technically is no script.
Yeah, and most of it takes. I mean, it's easy to do as a stage show because most of it takes place in one location.
Yeah,
and you can futz the other locations, and you can show the TV and the
Yeah, they did some
Willy Billy or whatever. What
Chili
was it?
Billy.
Chili Billy.
They did some pre-shot stuff that they would do to kind of do the exposition.
Yeah.
Since obviously the people in the house have no idea what's going on.
Yep.
But it was a really fun show. It was really fun to do, and it made me fall in love with the movie all over again.
Well, it's an amazing movie, and it's just unbelievable to me. I love seeing genre-starting films, and the way there's been a few different. We got your fast zombies, and you got your World War Z zombies that are like ants or whatever, and and you got. But zombies really haven't changed that much, man. The classic shuffling, bluffling, because look. It'd be a shuffly bluffly because it's dead and rigor mortisized or filled with embalming fluid or whatever,
decomposing as it walks.
Things that shock and take you out of your comfort zone and into a place where you think, like, watching it as a child, it was just very okay. Zombies, eat, dead, guy shot, confused, scared, grossed out, but intrigued. But you watch it when you're older and you get the subtext and you get the social commentary, it becomes a completely different film. And as you watch it, as you get older and you change, the film doesn't change, but the way that you see it and the way you interpret it changes.
Right.
And those are the kind of films that I absolutely adore. And you can just keep watching them forever because they're always going to spark something different in you.
Right. 100%. It's phenomenal. The movie can be a little slow.
It's of course.
In comparison to if you think about the fast zombies and all that stuff.
Look, honestly, it's a movie that if you didn't see it when you should have seen it, you're probably not going to love it.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those movies where your friend's going to be like, "Oh, you got to see this movie," and then they show it, and then they don't get the reaction that they want because the person's like, "It was all right, it was fine, it was a little silly." It's like, well, no, when I was 7 years old.
I was that way, much to the chagrin of most people I knew. I was that way with Highlander.
Oh,
I did not see Highlander when it came out, and I watched it for the first time a few years ago, and I hate that movie.
No.
Oh my god, I hate that movie.
Oh no,
it is not as good as people think it is.
Oh, it is. I'll go to my grave.
All right. Well, that'll be a fun episode.
I'm from Spain.
Oh God, it's so bad. But when you rewatch Night of the Living Dead, don't think of it as a zombie movie.
No.
Think of it as a survival movie. Think of it as social commentary.
Think of it as a ghoul movie.
And it's enjoyable. It's fun. Do what they did when you make it. Just spark a joint, sit down, watch some movie.
We're coming up. We're gonna at the end of this month, we're gonna have a list of horror movies that we're gonna do on the Stepdad Show. That they're essential Gen X horror movies that you need to watch.
Yes.
And this is definitely on that list and in the top 10.
It is the granddaddy of the Gen X horror movies.
Granddaddy of the zombies, baby. Of the zombos.
Zombos.
Yeah. A whole new genre. The zombo genre. It'll be like zombie clowns.
Oh.
Zombos.
Well, I know like 4 people that would hate it immediately.
Yes. I'm a zombo. Zombo.
We're pretty much out of time, so thanks for listening.
Thanks for coming, Barbara. And we'll see you next week as our Spooktober continues with a little something called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So excited about this.
That's a chainsaw.
Oh, no, I got that.
And I'm holding it over my head. I'm shaking my big belly.
Dance for me. Dance.
See you next week. I am a Highland. I am the last Highland. It sounded like... We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Family Ties, already in progress.